Welcome back to Point Out Racing. In today's episode, we are not messing about. We're putting the body harness back in and running that around the engine bay. We're going to be putting on the gear selector cables to make sure that's everything buttoned up this end as well. We're going to be uprating the cooling fans, putting a brand new radiator in and running some black silicone hoses. Fingers crossed there's a full set there because I got it with the car. And we're going to generally be trying to get this in the best place possible so that everything is done. So then when me and my man Duncan tackle the wiring very, very soon when he comes down, I'll be able to tell you exactly how to do the wiring and change the oil harness so you can run a 16 valve too. So let's jump straight into it. Now, as you could probably guess from the montage there, or the hyperlapse, we're doing body loom first. Now, there's not much point me trying to explain this to you as such. There's not a huge amount to the actual body loom. It's just going to a few essential things like the headlights. Then some of it goes off to like the side repeaters and the sensors for the radiator and stuff. It's nothing massive. Now, obviously, if you took your wiring loom off when you did your engine conversion, you should remember how it goes back. Either you took photos, wrote some down, or just got a good memory. But if you didn't do that, take my advice. It's like doing a puzzle. Just do the most obvious things that you know first and work your way back from there. So all I did was obviously started this end because that's where it comes in. And I just went with what's the nearest connector. To start with, I didn't have a clue what that was. So I just put it to one side. Then I went, that's a headlight connector. So that's got to go there. And obviously then there's an earth cable right next to it. That's an earthing point. So I bolted that in. I just sort of slowly made my way around. Everything then just ran down under the back of the engine bay like that, all the way around there. I buttoned everything up. Then I didn't tighten anything up too much or connect it. And then I went back round and connected it all afterwards. Then when I got to the end, I was like, oh, well, that is obviously the wiper motor thing because that's the only bit that's left up there. Obviously, the wiper motor is not there in a minute, which is why I didn't remember. So that's all done. I've buttoned it up. It's all in the right places. I've tightened all the earths and stuff up now so I don't forget because obviously bad earths will stop it running later at a later date. And now it's on for the actual main part of the engine wiring. Anyone who doesn't know, what I'm talking about is this connector here. It's called a D4 connector. Don't ask me why. This then connects to the actual wiring that goes to your engine. So that's things for your ignition coils, all your sensors, all of that junk that actually gets it to work. Now, the Punto engine, I've got the wiring loom for that. That's all of the right stuff that I need. So it's got it for like the multi-injectors and everything. I don't have to change anything on the Punto side. But when you connect it up to this, these wires don't correspond to the same wires on the Punto side because obviously these are for a Cinquecento. So what you need to do is on the actual wiring loom itself, which I don't have at the moment, the connector that goes into here, you basically need to pull the wires out of some of the connectors and move them to different places, okay? Now, here's where the problem lies. On the Fiat forum, do you remember forums? Now the Fiat forum is actually still going. I don't know how active it is. It's fairly active, but as you know from forums, unless you go and check, you don't get told when anything gets posted and stuff on there. So you have to kind of keep a bit of an eye on it. I'd like to see them make a bit more of a comeback, if I'm honest. They're just a little bit less troublesome to things like social media and stuff. Anyway, but regardless, there's a very old post on there from a long time ago, like quite a few years ago actually, that lists out all of the changes you need to make to the D4 connector. Essentially what it says is this is what colour the wire is on the Punto one, and this is where it needs to go. So I'll tell you a number, pin 10. Thankfully on the connector, it's got numbers. So then essentially what you do is you pull that red wire out and you put it in pin 8 or wherever it tells you to put it. So it should be pretty straightforward. But what I've been reliably informed is Fiat's got a little bit of a habit of changing wires sometimes, either their colour or location. So when Patrick went to do his 16 valve conversion a little while ago, there were some very minor differences between what even the Haynes manual said the wires should be to what was on his car. So let's assume for a minute that there might be some slight problems depending on what car you've got, but I'm still going to put the information somewhere for you anyway, whether I put a picture up so you can screenshot it now, or I find a way to put it in the comments, or I link the actual Fiat forum for you to go and find it. But I think at the moment at least, I'm probably going to try move all the connectors around like it says on the forum post, because I know a couple of people have done it like that way and it worked fine. So I'm going to try that. And if that doesn't work, it's only about 11 wires, maybe 10, something like that. We'll have to do it the old fashioned way. We'll actually have to figure out on the Fiat side, on the Cinquecento side, right, what does that wire go to? Cool, that's for the injectors or whatever. And then I make sure then I put the injector wire in the right bit. Hopefully it won't come to that, but I'll do it. I'll start doing it, then I'll show you what I did, and any little bits of pitfalls or anything weird that I find, I'll explain. But all I've done, piece of paper, write down where all the wires are now, and then next to it I've written down where they have to be, and then I'm just going to sit there, do one, tick it, do one, tick it, do one, tick it, just like that. Yeah. Oh, it's worth noting, if you're doing it this method, you will need a de-pinning tool, unless you want to try and mess around for ages. It's like you get a little set of them, you just push it into the end of the connector, and it just pops a little tab that lets the pin come out the back. It's much easier than trying to use a piece of wire or a knife or something and risk ruining the pins. You could cut the wires and then put another pin on the end and do it that way, but I don't suggest you do it that way. What are we going to do next, Ben? So assume the wiring is done for now, body wiring wise. We're not going to do the engine wiring until a later date because I'm going to get my man Duncan down here. I think he's still up for coming down and helping me. That way I can be a lot more clear and concise to you about exactly what it is that we've either chopped and extended, added in and then modified. We have got the immobilizer and stuff and the key and all that kind of junk to try and fit in. I'm sure Duncan won't be on camera. He's not that kind of guy. So I will probably just end up getting him to help me do it. And then afterwards, I'll go around and show you everything. I'll take notes. I do that sometimes. But if the wiring's done, what are we doing next, Ben? Well, I've already started making a move on it. So it came with this basically brand new radio. It's not uprated. You don't tend to really need to unless you're running a turbo or something like that. But I have ordered two 9-inch slimline fans for it. Pretty certain one will run off the automatic switch that turns it on. The other one's going to be on a manual switch. When I do a track day or something, I go back to the pits. I can smack the second one on just to cool it down super fast so it doesn't get too hot waiting in the queue and all that jazz. But another lovely thing this car came with. Now this one was actually courtesy of my man Chris, because where it had all the red hoses and stuff in it before, he actually bought a full, this is actually for a Cinquecento, a full silicone set of black hoses to replace every single hose on the car. So that is going to be my next job. And while I'm just figuring out where all these hoses go, why not jump back to me from maybe a couple of days ago, where I just put the drive shafts in this thing, so you can see me putting those in as well, and getting that buttoned up. Now you'll have to excuse the lighting a little bit, but this is basically what you have to do. Just remove these two bolts so this whole assembly can tip forward. That way you can slot the splined end of the drive shaft in here and the other end down there in what is currently a masked up area of the drive shaft there. Now before you start taking your car apart and stuff, there is one really important thing you need to know. You never, ever, 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 in any certain terms, reuse your hub nuts. I mean, you could. I'm sure maybe at some point in your life it wouldn't fail and it wouldn't kill you. But for the sake of this tiny little part, which is only a couple of pounds, you need to get new ones. Now it will become all perfectly clear if you've never done one of these before. But once you actually do this nut up and you torque it up, there's a couple of little notches in the drive shaft. You put a screwdriver on here and you hammer it flat so it digs into that notch and it can't possibly come undone. Now, a little top tip for you, because I wasn't 100% certain if my wheel bearings were okay. I actually bought a wheel bearing kit that came with the hub nut, and it wasn't hugely more expensive than just a hub nut or a wheel bearing on its own. So it just made sense. So I've got two new wheel bearings and two hub nuts. Now I won't be putting the wheel bearings in unless some horrible reason they need to, because you have to take the whole hub off, press them out, press the new ones in, and I can't be bothered. So I'm going to undo these couple of bolts, we'll lean it back, and then we'll start figuring out how to get the drive shafts in. They are under the car somewhere. So I'm going to dig them out and hope they're not blue like everything else. I've got a horrible feeling they're blue, and I'm probably going to have to paint them before we put them on. Yeah. Life can be cruel sometimes. I dragged these out from under the car and went, oh sweet, they're not blue. I don't have to paint them and the CV boots look all right. And then I realised these are actually the spare low mileage ones for the potential turbo build in the future. And these are actually the ones. So these are the ones I'm going to have to sort out. So, I mean, it's not the end of the world. I'm just going to give them a quick brush down and paint them up. I will just double check all the CV boots and stuff on these look all right. And they, so far, are so good. They all look nice and soft and supple. And they're not all cracked or anything horrible like that. So, yep, this is the end. It goes in the hub end. And then this is the end I was talking about. It goes in the gearbox end. Don't get grease on your hands from these because it's horrible to get off. And that is what I will be filling with more grease. Now, thankfully, it doesn't look like it's got any bits or anything in there. But, yep, once that's on the car, I'll be jamming a big old load of it in there. And that obviously stops any of this from wearing. So, yeah, well, this one is very, very short. And done. Now that is actually that kind of wrinkle grey that I've used on loads of stuff, and I do it because it's a really good finish and you don't have to pay any attention to basically making it all nice and smooth because it goes all wrinkly. And if you're watching that hyperlapse thinking, I swear it looked like he did that with a toothbrush. I did. I couldn't find any brushes. I've used all my brushes up for all the flipping painting I've been doing recently. So I actually used an old wooden toothbrush and I just gently put it on there. Like I said, you can see it now, already starting to go into that hammer finish. And it will do the job. I mean, let's face it, all they're going to be doing is spinning frantically under the car, trying to keep up with the hammering I'm about to put through them. So I'll give this overnight to dry, and we'll plop them in the car. Here we go, a nice fresh morning, and my quick paint job last night has worked a treat. Feels very slightly like it needs a little bit longer to dry, but it should be absolutely fine. Now I'm going to do the short one first, purely because it's the easiest one to do, because it's very, very short, and then we'll do the long one afterwards. So I've already taken all the tape and everything off the gearbox cups. So now we'll just knock these two bolts out really quick, and then we'll slot this home, and hopefully the postie will turn up soon with my gearbox or my drive shaft grease, and that'll be done as well. Oh, I don't know if I mentioned it, but the gearbox mount is on perfect. Took no time at all the bolts lined up, everything went in fine, and we are still good. Now it's always a little bit difficult to film these things in here, especially when I'm working on this side, but I said once these two bolts are gone, you just lean this up and out of the way. Now don't worry, I know this is loose, I need to find the bolts to keep that bolted on, but obviously once the wheel's on it doesn't matter anyway. But yeah, we're going to go this end first into the gearbox, because this end's got quite a lot of movement on it, and we're going to hopefully just about get this in on the threads. Take your time. And then we'll just put it all back up, put the bolts on, then worry about torquing this up later. I actually find it easier to torque the bolt up to the right tightness once it's on the floor, because then, well, I'll explain that a little bit later. It will make more sense. Now, if that looked pretty easy, it's because it is. It's really not a difficult job once you've got everything out and you sort of take your time. So, yep, now this end, obviously, I'm going to wait for the grease to turn up today. So that's supposed to be turning up later on. So I'll put a load of grease inside this rubber boot. And then I'm going to use a metal cable tie. I mean, you could use a plastic one. I don't know how long it's going to last for, but the metal ones are the way to go. You can get proper ones, but any metal cable tie should do the job. Oh, and likewise on this side, you can see this one's got a metal clip on already. Now, it does look a little cracked, this one. I'll be honest, it didn't look that bad when I had it on the floor, so I'll have a look at that properly in a minute just to make sure that definitely doesn't need a new CV boot on there before I go to the trouble of bolting all this up. So now, like I said, once you put the bolt on this side, it will start pulling everything back together and it should feel nice and taut. Now the good news here, well, it's good news if you like buying new tools, is you're going to need a 32mm socket for this. I definitely had to buy one. I will be shocked if any of you get one of these in a normal toolkit. It's not too expensive, and if you're an idiot enough to be doing engine conversions on cars like I am, then chances are you're going to need it more than one time. I've used this one way more than I should probably admit over the years. So yeah, make sure you bear that in mind when you're doing this job. Good times. Okay, that's both drive shafts in. I actually got some nice grease in the post, so I just squeezed a load of that inside the CV boots before I did them up, and I used these good old metal cable ties. You can get better ones, but these actually work a treat. So they're on there as well. So now I'm going to put the wheels back on, and I'm going to show you how to torque up the hub nuts without causing yourself a huge amount of headache, hopefully. When you actually have to do these hub nuts up, if you are lucky enough to have your brake calipers on there, which I am not, then really all you want to do is get someone to sit inside the car and apply the brakes. Then you can actually fit the socket inside the wheel. If you're like me and you remove your center caps, see, you get a nice clear view of it, then you can torque it up. If you don't have a helpful friend to press the brakes, I've just used it to like a stick, broom handle, some kind of brake bar, anything to just jam and keep the brakes shut. Then you'll be able to do it from that. But if you don't have brakes on it like me, or for some other reason you can't do any of the things I just said, then you're gonna have to get a little bit creative. So what I tend to do is I jam a couple of decent chocks of wood. You'll need some that are a wedge really on the back wheel, and jam them on the front, and then just hope for the best, because it will still rock backwards and forwards a little bit. I've got a feeling it's like 100 Newton meters or something for these, maybe more, I can't remember. I'll look it up in a minute, but it's quite a lot to do these for actually get them to lock in. But if you can do that, then Bob's your uncle. Now, again, if I struggle too much, I'll wait until my calipers are rebuilt, which I've now got the kit for up there, but that's another day. And then we'll get it done then, and I'll talk them up after that. But I've written it up on the board. I suggest to you have a similar thing to this. If there is a nut or bolt that you can't do up yet, so you don't forget at a later date, put it on the board. Right, Duncan's had his visit. Great to see him as always. And I'll be honest with you, even for someone like me who's been doing fit Cinquecentos for absolute years, and I consider myself to know most things when it comes to actually just doing normal jobs on them. I've never done a 16 valve, obviously, and sometimes it's good to bounce ideas off other people. And it was great to go through and just confirm a lot of my understanding. Now he's gone over and looked at the coolant pipes, how I've ran them, because this is really an 8-valve silicone hose set. So there's a few little bits I had to just make sure. Can't remember the last time I took an entire cooling system off. He's given me the thumbs up for that, so I'll show you that in a second. And we've ran through what I think I'm going to do with the wiring, not the exact changes that need to be made, but just where I'm going to route some stuff and just confirming that all the connectors I thought were what they were for were actually what they were for, if that makes sense. And it was just great to have a catch up. So I'm going to quickly show you just those couple of little bits, and we're going to start touching on the wiring in a minute. But he did bring me a nice box of some very cool parts. Now, there's no way that you're going to be able to see this really well, so I apologise. It's not going to be a how to do your cooling, but like I said, I've got these really nice silicone hoses. Now, there is just one that goes from the thermostat right up to the top of the radiator, and then there's this weird, like, this thing. Then one goes to the bottom of the radiator, this one goes up, and then joins there, which obviously it's not at the moment, because I want to make sure it works. And the other one goes up to that metal coolant pipe, which any of you have got a fit Cinquecento, comes out the front of the block. Now, the other part then, we've got one that on the 16 valve at least comes out the inlet here. It is slightly different on the 8 valve one. It is sort of roughly in the same place. Then that comes up and that goes to the other top of the heater matrix, and then it splits off and then goes off to this little top one that goes here. I'm going to cut and convert that in a little bit. And the other one goes off of down here. It goes up and goes to the bottom of the heater matrix. So basically, just got a nice big full loop. So I'm going to go around and put all the Jubilee clips on, tighten a couple of them up, chop a couple to make them slightly shorter, and that bit's done. But now for cool parts. So a couple of things he brought. He actually gave me a set of Halper springs for these. I know if you're one of those people that are super into lows, you think to yourself, well, don't bother. Most people take these out so they can go even lower. This car's going to be pretty low, but I do kind of like the Halper springs to keep the springs just in place. I might fit them, I might not. I won't ever sell them or anything. I'll either give them back to him or do something good with them. And the other thing that he gave me, which again, we're going to have to see what we can do with these. I'm not going to fit these straight away. Is he bought these a long time ago. These are actually off a race Cinquecento, and what they are is sort of, I don't want to say homemade necessarily, but they're basically adjustable top mounts, or they're not adjustable. These are top mounts that go on the top of the coilovers, and it just puts a fixed amount of negative camber in. It's we've looked at it, you can see that it definitely moves the top of the strut over. They definitely need a little bit of love. Some of the threads are a little bit chewed up and stuff, and I don't know how good the bearings are in them, but he said I could have them for free to try them out. So at some point we'll take these apart, maybe just give them a bit of a clean up, fit a couple and see how they get on. But I thought, wow, for a free set, he's had them on his shelf for a very long time, he said. And obviously they're quite a simple setup, but that's all it needs to be. But the best bit that he gave me, or I should say that I paid for, because I actually paid for this one for a change, was this. A really, very nice snap-off steering wheel hub. Now it's important whenever you get something like this, is don't cheap out. Don't buy a cheap one. I've been waiting until one came up at a reasonable price. This is a, I won't say expensive one, but this is a good one at a cheap price. Not a cheap one at a cheap price. So it doesn't have any play in it whatsoever once it's locked in, which is what you want. You don't want to feel your steering wheel kind of moving a little bit left and right, because that sucks. And you also don't want your wheel coming off of your hand when you're going around the track. So it's dead easy. It's going to move the steering wheel nice and close to me, because I've already got the hub on now already to convert it to the Momo steering wheel, or whatever steering wheel I end up having. And then this adds another chunk onto it, which is another reason why I've moved the shifter cables back, so the steering and the gear linkage aren't too far away. So I'm just going to sort of dummy this up for now, just so it's on the car and I don't lose it or slash drop it anywhere. We'll have a little look in a minute how it works, because it is lovely. Now it goes without saying, I will show you this fitted properly once I do it. I've just put 3 bolts in for now. The really nice thing about this one, apart from how nicely it's been built, is the horn push actually goes and clicks behind here. I haven't done it properly, so it goes into 2 connectors. And then when this one joins, it means the power can still run through. So when you keep disconnecting and putting this on, the power still runs to your horn push. So it's nice and easy. It will only go back on one way, which is also really good. And it goes on with a very satisfying clunk. Boom. And there is literally no play in that whatsoever. And like I said, it's moved the steering wheel back, and it's going to make it infinitely easier to get over here and get into the bucket seats without this. And obviously it's a bit of a deterrent as well for stealing the car. It actually looks like it's a lot easier to space that steering column down. Not really about an inch, but it will help. Like with the angles of working with an inch down should help it a lot. So I think I'm going to space that down at some point. So if you're interested in doing that as well, I'll tell you when I do it. But that's only really a downside about having someone who's enthusiastic about small fears, as Duncan is, who's got a lot of ideas. He knows a lot. It tends to be catching. It spreads a little bit. You start getting that like project creep kicking. We did well. We kept it fairly on the straight and narrow. So don't worry, this isn't going to end up being some turbo car by the end of the week. So anyway, leave that with me for now. I'll button that last little bit up, and then we're going to start with the wiring. This is going to be probably my most daunting part, but once it's done, we are on the home stretch. Right, now this episode's actually been filmed over a lot longer period than I'd liked. I've had loads of things come up. I've had like my main car break. I've had my workhorse other car break. I've had leaks, petrol leaks. I had a throttle body leak and all kinds of things on the Lemon. So I've been trying to sort that out. So in the interest of this episode not going on for absolutely ever, and it's been over a month since I posted one, I'm going to stop it there. We've done the cooling. We've put all the engine loom stuff in. I've put the drive shafts in. We've sorted out a load of other bits. So now the next episode will be purely on the wiring and attempting to start the car. So obviously be putting fluids and stuff in it, and then we'll wire it up and we'll do it as a separate episode. It makes way more sense, because if that's all you're here for, to come and see the 16 valve wiring, then you can just come watch that as a separate episode. So either way, we're making some fantastic progress. I've got a lot more parts turning up. And I may have said earlier on in the video, I've got the Punto Turbo brake caliper rebuild kit just turned up as well. So we're going to start really cracking on from this point onwards. And I think, with the help of AI, which you know I don't like, I've managed to envisage my idea for how this car is going to look into an actual image, and I think we can start getting cracking with that soon as well. But either way, hopefully this episode makes some kind of sense as I ping-ponged across a period of a couple of weeks. But I will see you again hopefully very, very soon for some good old-fashioned wiring.